welcome to the training for the ACT Ambassador for Altria. Thank you all for your interest in becoming ACT Ambassadors. And so today we're going to go over, it'll be a 4-hour training, and we're going to go over 4 different modules. And we'll take breaks in between, so you won't have to actually sit through 4 straight hours. In front of you, you should have a participant's guide that looks like this, as well as, hold on one second. My apologies. That you don't have a, hi, welcome. Come on in. We've already started, but come on in. Have a seat right here. All right, hi, welcome. Come on in. You can have a seat. Yeah.
Hi,
Right
I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Pleased to meet you.
Melissa.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So you should also have your handouts. You should also have the policy library, how to do a brief as a handout, the guidance for volunteer opportunities when working with youth individuals. We have our scenario here. And then we also have some information on participating in volunteer events that are not inside of the Richmond, Virginia area. So these are all your handouts that everyone has. So again, thank you for volunteering to, or not volunteering, but for signing up to learn how to become an ACT ambassador so that you can also lead volunteer events. And so first thing, before we go into how to lead a volunteer event, we need to understand why we do volunteer events and the company's purpose and background and why we contribute to the communities where we live and work. So if you'll look up front, we have the actual ACT Ambassador training here. And by the end of this workshop, you will be able to analyze the key responsibilities of an ACT Ambassador, as well as differentiate effective and ineffective volunteer event strategies. You will also design a structured volunteer event and plan it with no major omissions. And then lastly, you will demonstrate ambassadorial leadership through 1, commitment, and 2, behaviors. So there are 5 core ACT Ambassador expectations. Those expectations include being able to communicate the purpose, why are you volunteering, and the impact that it aligns with. It also identifies the community needs. Why go out and volunteer when there's not a need? Why do community service if there's not a need? The next thing is that you'll be able to coordinate the logistics of an actual volunteer event. And then you'll be able to follow the company's rules and regulations and stay within compliance of our volunteer policy. And then lastly, you'll be able to capture the outcomes and the impact of your volunteer assignments. So, in today's workshop, and the part we're going to go over now is to learning about the ACT role. We'll later evaluate the event fit, we'll build the plan, and we'll lead the experience. So, our learning objectives include analyzing, designing, differentiating, and leading. So first we have to analyze, is the nonprofit a approved nonprofit? Is it a 501c3 corporation? Does it fit within the alignment of the company's structure or company's volunteer policy? Does the hours of the volunteer event fit within the company's volunteer policy? Are we working with children? Are people underneath the age of 21? Because even though we have good intentions, not everyone sees from the outside the good intentions that we necessarily have. And then of course you'll be able to actually lead an actual volunteer event and actually meet the needs of the organization that we decide to volunteer with. So, what counts as a volunteer event? What do you think counts as a volunteer event?
A particular need that has to be met for a service for giving back to the community.
Very good, very good. So, under the Altria structure, Volunteer Together supports teams and co-workers who volunteer together in the community. That's exactly what we do, we volunteer together. And the great part of this is that the company allows us to do this on company time. We're actually allotted 8 hours each year at a minimum to actually go out and volunteer in the communities where we live and work. So, what do you think? Okay, so eligibility comes before logistics. So it's important, like I said, that you make sure that the organization is eligible, okay? So think of, can someone tell me some different type things that you could volunteer do?
You can feed the homeless.
Okay, well,
You can feed the homeless.
feeding the homeless, that's awesome.
Help out after a disaster.
Disaster relief, that is amazing, thank you. So those actually, both of those actually fall into two of the categories in which, of the 9, in which we can participate in. Hunger relief and disaster relief are 2 of the 9 areas. Some people like to volunteer with animal shelters. Great opportunity, great need. However, that is not a supported organization in which the company will allow us to volunteer with. Additionally, some people think of, well, let's do something with the American Heart Association, or let's do something with Blair Batson in Jackson, the Children's Hospital. Unfortunately, those are wonderful causes. However, because of the type of work that we do, and because of what it looks like from the outside in, we are not allowed to participate in anything that's health related for our company. Does that make sense as to the why?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. So, the first criteria that we have to think about is it a 501c3 organization? And a 501c3 organization is what actually classifies an organization as an official nonprofit with the IRS. So, if little Johnny is just walking up and asking you, can you give him $10 to support his baseball team, do you think that qualifies as a 501c3 nonprofit? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Little Johnny needs help, but it doesn't qualify as a 501c3 nonprofit. So this is a type of organization that we would not be able to help with. Now, if Little Johnny is actually playing for, let's say, a baseball team, a community baseball team that is a 501c3 nonprofit, then great, dandy. We can actually possibly see if we can submit it and get him, get Altria to actually fund it, but we have to run that through to see. So the first criteria is that it has to be a 501c3 nonprofit. And if you're ever in doubt, always ask our corporate responsibilities department. So, as I mentioned, there are several areas which we can participate in. And those areas, and I'm gonna try to make this larger so we can all see them. Can y'all see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so those areas are, as I mentioned previously, disaster relief, domestic and family violence. So domestic abuse shelters qualify. The environment, things like recycling, things like Keep America Beautiful. Home security and homelessness. Someone said homelessness. The next one is hunger relief. And I back up when I say homelessness, I like to say the unhomed. So the population that does not have a home, okay? Hunger relief, that could be working at a food pantry. It could also be working at a soup kitchen, those type things. Youth services, lots of things fall underneath youth services. And I know that's kind of conflicting because I said there's a policy with working with people under 21 because of the products that we actually use ourselves. However, under the policies guidelines, which you have on your table, which we'll look at them a little bit later, there are ways in which we can work with organizations that have individuals that are under 21. However, we must follow that policy. It includes things like, does your shirt or your logo have anything tobacco related on it? So things like that. Work and environmental opportunity. Senior services, that could be something like Alzheimer's disease. And then inclusive culture includes anything that is the identity. So that could be Hispanic, that could be LGBTQ, that could be African American, and so forth. So anything that falls underneath the women, anything that falls underneath the identity structure, minorities and so forth, then that would actually fall into an inclusive service. So, there are 3 steps to identify, and we're gonna look at the case study real quick that's in your handout. The one that should be green, and it should say, there you go. It should be a volunteer event around hunger and in that category. So look at that handout for about a minute. And then work in your table to identify which expectations are present and which are missing. And then, does it qualify? Does it look like it qualifies as a nonprofit? And does it look like it falls into one of our categories? And is there evidence that there is a need? So I'm gonna walk over with you and we can discuss this. Okay. So, healthy nutrition is very important for our life and body. So, healthy nutrition, that could fall underneath what? Which category would healthy nutrition fall under?
Food.
Yes, food. Very good, very good. So it should qualify. Now it's for the Henrico County Public Schools. So what happens at public schools? What's at public schools?
People under age 21.
People under age of 21. So therefore, we're gonna have to be careful. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, but we need to be careful and see what do they want us to do, okay? So the ask is that, would you read that for me? Volunteers need to know what?
When arriving, volunteers need to enter the door marked Exit 1 and get signed in by the front office staff. Let the front office know that you are here to volunteer with the McKinley Bento team, and someone will come and escort you to the clothing closet. Volunteers' attendance will be checked in and marked in the hands-on systems afterwards. Volunteers will always need to be accompanied by a member of the McKinley Bento team while in the building. Volunteers are also advised to wear comfortable clothing and shoes.
Thank you very much. Would you read the project overview, please?
McKinley Bento stands on their federal legislation designed to eliminate obstacles to enrollment. Fertility completed school participation and offer academy support for students facing unstable housing situation. One way we support students is by providing non-perishable food items to students and their families. Volunteers are needed to sort and pack food bags for families to pick up. These kits help ensure students have access to food outside of school hours.
Very good. All right, so the need is that they need us to pack backpacks, okay? Doesn't say that we're gonna be interacting with children, okay? So if you were to look at the policy, you are A-okay, we're gonna be escorted the entire time by school staff. So everything in this actually falls within area which we could participate in. We'll just have to make sure that while we're on campus that we do not wear any apparel that says Altria, any apparel that has anything about tobacco on it. So we won't wear, we can wear our ACT volunteer shirts because all it says is ACT, and no one really knows what ACT is, but us. But it says Altria, it says ACT volunteers, so that would actually be okay. But we cannot wear anything that actually says Altria or have any tobacco-related wear on. So this scenario does qualify for a volunteer event, so this would be a great one that we would actually be able to participate in. So before we go on any further, we're going to take a quick break because those that came in were not able to get drinks and snacks. So I'm going to stop for a second and allow them to get some drinks and snacks, and then we'll proceed on. Y'all may go and get your drinks and snacks.